Can I help you? Can I help you, sir? Yes. Make sure. Yep, that's on. Well, when you live with a dog and you love your dog, he loves you, this is what you got to deal with every single day. Hey, excuse me, sir. I'm trying to make my video here. So, I will. All right, look, come on. Stop. That's enough. All right. Here it is, my draft. And today kind of kicks off the journey that I'm going to be going on of the actual first draft process that I'm doing my own edits as an author. So I haven't touched the draft at all since I finished it because I've been wanting to just kind of decompress from the creative process, just let my imagination kind of like restabilize, reset. Hey, excuse me. And the main reason I did that was because I wanted to avoid a sort of a creative burnout. And so I wanted to just take a couple weeks, just leave the draft be as it is. And I had ideas for sure that kept on coming to me, but I avoided making big drastic changes into the draft itself. Arlo, stop. That's enough. That's enough. Hey, leave it. That's enough. Leave it. Go over there. Leave it. Over there. Come on. Over there. And I wanted to avoid just jumping right into it because I knew that I would feel really burned out creatively, emotionally, whatever. And so I wanted to avoid that from happening, which I'm kind of working on lately, where I'm working on other books right now as well. But this is just the first one that I've taken from a prologue to an epilogue that I can fully print out and look at. And pardon me. And so the ideas that I've had, because whenever I'm walking at the park, I leave my phone in the car. I don't want my phone with me. I just want to be with myself, Arlo, my thoughts, and when we're doing our exercise, that's when I get a lot of ideas that come to me, and I'll have ideas like, oh, I think I want to make sure that these themes or this dialogue happens or this character development or making sure that the sequence of events lines up and makes sense logically. And so what I've been doing is just writing those down as vague and as quickly as possible in a separate document, which I have on my computer. And so the process that I'm going to be doing now is using my two pens. I have a red and a black one, and I'm going to be working through the draft page by page. And if I need to make any notes on it, either during the chapter itself or at the end of it, just like little things like, add a little bit more location description or maybe add more dialogue. Um, make sure that if you mentioned something important and it's never brought up again, then why was it important in the first place? So just making sure that I'm catching any any major like plot holes, I guess I should say, in my story. So that's gonna kind of be how I'm working through it, and I'll probably have other ideas that come to me as I'm working on the draft. And once I get feedback from my friends that I've sent the book to already to kind of act as my beta readers, once I get feedback from them, then I'll be able to go ahead and compare it to the ideas that I've been having because they might catch something that I didn't even consider, which is why I want to have some feedback from beta readers because it puts other eyes on my work, which is really, really important for me. And it's going to be really important to just kind of have that um, step in the process as I go from taking this rough draft to turning it into an actual book. And that's the process and the journey that I want to take you on. If you're following me, if you're watching my stuff, and I want to show you what it looks like for me, because everybody's writing journey and writing style is unique and different to them. And I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about why I chose to write, what influences and inspires me to write, and a little bit about the book itself. So just to kind of get into like why I chose to start writing, I think around the year 2010, 11 was when I started writing more, and it was just more like I guess just more poems. Um, at the time, I was deeply in love with somebody, and so I just wanted to like just find some way to express my emotions through words. So maybe I was a little bit just caught up in the romance of life at the moment, and everything, and just like everything that like she meant to me and all that stuff. And I didn't realize it then, but it's like that kind of set the foundation of framing myself as somebody who is really passionate and who really cares about telling a story. And so I got into like film, creative writing, drama, all these other things as I continued on in college, and advertising and PR. And I mean, that kind of really framed a lot of just how I've lived my life since then. And I've always told myself, like, you like telling stories, whether it's through video, whatever, that's your thing. And in the year 2014, 15, um, I was living in Chile, South America, doing an internship. And that's when I initially had an idea of like actually writing a book. Like, why not? Like, I have so many cool creative ideas, especially in a sci-fi setting. That's like, why don't I just write my ideas into a book? And so I just started drafting like crazy, writing down all kinds of lore and finding images on the internet that like coincide with the story I want to tell. But I never knew how to take that from ideas to a final draft. And they've just been kind of like sitting in my computer for years on my Google Drive, always reminding me that, hey, you want to write these books, right? Well, then they're here waiting. And I never knew how to take it to that next stage of bringing it to this point. Because it's kind of funny because the book that I have right here, um, I had no idea I would actually write it. The idea was initially just characters that I had for a zombie apocalypse. And at the time, I was very much into like board games, very much into like Dungeons and Dragons, the Star Wars tabletop version for Fantasy Flight games, where there's a lot of elements of world building, character building, storytelling, immersive experiences. And so at that time, I was just feeling very, very creative and just wanted to get a lot of things down and written and whatnot. And so um, I just kind of wrote ideas for these characters in the book and just let them. I just left them alone. I didn't bother with them. It wasn't until like last month, a month and a half ago, really, that I started going through my Google files and I came across the work that I was doing on these characters, and I was like, you know what? Let me just try to do something really quick that could just be its own a single standalone book and just see what happens. And so the way that I wrote it was just going outline by outline, chapter by chapter, and just following the logic. Like, I knew how I wanted it to end, and I knew how I wanted it to begin. And so then it was just a matter of figuring out, okay, how do we get them from beginning to the end? And that's how I found I was going to be able to write this book out. And so, like, some of the chapters in this draft are just a few sentences, a few paragraphs. Other ones are a few pages because they're much more fleshed out. And I really had in mind, like, dialogue, character development, location, etc. And yeah, like I just grinded through it, and I just wanted to see this through from beginning to end, to see, you know what, if we have something by the end of it, then it's probably worth continuing. And I think I mentioned it before in a previous video on my channel, where I really needed to ask myself, like, if you really want to write books, if you really want to, publish your work, your ideas, your imagination, if you really want to do it, then ask yourself this question. Imagine yourself on your deathbed, and you look back at your life. Would writing the books that I've always wanted to turn into books be something that you look back and say, I'm very glad I did it? Or if you never did it, is this something that you would look back and say, I regret never writing those books? And you know what? I wrestled with it for weeks, for months even. And I even just like completely stopped writing and just stopped focusing on it for like maybe 6, 7, 8 months around there, because I really wanted to ask myself, if I never write these books, will I regret it on my deathbed? And the answer was yes. I would regret it. And I immersed myself completely in that moment, just imagining what it would be like. And at the time, also in my life, my grandpa and an uncle of mine passed away within the same year. And, mortality, it comes for us all. Oh, man, I don't want to get emotional about it, but I can't help it. And so I remember finding out the news about my uncle who passed away. This was in, I want to say November 2020. Oh, what was it? 22, I think. 21 in November. And I remember because my cousin, their dad, gave me the call and told me like, "Hey, man, like, just letting you know, man, it's hard to go back to those moments, without feeling something. Because I loved him. I loved my uncle. He was funny. And then my grandpa passed away also, later that same the following year, which it was hard also because he was my last grandparent, and I loved him a lot. And just I remember being by his bedside and holding his hand, and I mean, how much of his memory was left at that point, I don't know. But you know, life experiences are powerful. Emotions are powerful. And so, having experienced what that's like from my point of view, it's like, wow, like, you never know how life is going to change. Oh man, like, it's just a lot. But this episode was meant to be focused on my writing process and my journey and what inspires me and motivates me. And so, anyways, just having experienced that, especially as you get older, you really know how to process emotions better, hopefully. Um, and you experience these things in life. And then it's like, I forgot where exactly it's credited from, but I love the phrase or the quote, whatever, that says, "Every man realizes, or it's like every man believes he has two lives. The second one begins when he realizes the first one ends," or it's something along those lines, where it's like you come to the realization that we're only here once. We have one shot at life, and so it's like, where do you want to see your life go? What do you want to do? Who do you want to become? How do you want to get there? And so a lot of these things really helped in those first months when I decided to make the move to come live on my own with my dog. Because at the time I was always living with family or with roommates in college, never truly on my own. And I mean, the main reason I wanted to do this all on my own was to be able to figure out who I truly want to be and how do I want to become that person. And you can go back. to my very first video on my YouTube channel with my Someday Has Arrived series, where I talk about where I'm at, how I got there, where I'm going, and I talk about how the main reason I wanted to move out was to give my goals a chance. And here we are, just just a little bit over a year later, and I have my first draft. And I remember I've told people before in the past, like, I'm working on books, I'm going to write books, I can't wait to publish my books, but nothing happened. Nothing came of it. And that's because I always just let life get in the way. I always let my own excuses get in the way. And I always let the idea of, well, it's not perfect yet, not yet. Just keep refining it, keep perfecting it. But the more I did that, the worse my projects became, and I would just look at them with full disdain. And so the book that I wrote now, it's called Fading Death. It's a zombie apocalypse survivor story that really ties into the themes of hope, redemption, sacrifice, as well as government conspiracies, because I'm all about that. I love that stuff. I love getting into just anything that's involved with just governments and how they lie to people. So this channel isn't meant to be political, and I've mentioned that before, but sometimes it might just come up my own personal beliefs of how I feel about everything. So, just a heads up. And anywho, the book is called Fading Death, and the main protagonist in the story is a Hispanic man named Diaz, and he is a Gulf War veteran who is kind of navigating his way to get out of Boston and reach some family that he has in Maine. And the story takes place in Boston in the year 2000. And it kind of follows mostly from his perspective, but there's also other characters that it follows along as well. I'd say there's maybe, yeah, I'd say that there's three main characters in this story, or I should say one main character, then two other leading protagonists. Because it follows a few other characters, but the main one, Diaz, he's the one who, like, we follow the story most closely with, follow his experience and perspective. Most of it's written in third person on omniscient, so we also get to understand how other characters are feeling, are processing, or understanding things. And the reason I chose to write it in that style was because two authors of mine, or not mine, but like two authors that have really inspired me in the way that they write is Michael Crichton and Orson Scott Card. Both of those authors write their books in a way that just keeps me hooked. Like, I could just sit down, put on the audiobook, or have the actual book itself in my hands and just read until I just get exhausted. Um, for Michael Crichton, I love the way that he wrote Jurassic Park 1 and 2, especially because those are like the ones that I really got introduced to him, and I love the way that he gives details as the story goes on. And then for Orson Scott Card, I read Ender's Game a while back, and I liked it. I enjoyed it because, I mean, I love sci-fi. That's, for me, that's my bread and butter, is science fiction. Um, this story isn't really science fiction. It's just kind of set in like a more contemporary, modern time in the year 2000. But it might still be considered science fiction to some degree. But like space travel, space battles, all that stuff. That's my bread and butter. I love that stuff. But anyways, and I love the way that Orson Scott Card has been working on the second Formic War series, where we follow mostly Mazer Rackham and a few other characters during that time. And I love the way that it's written. And so, like, those two authors, I'd say, are probably some of the biggest inspirations for me as far as my own writing style goes. There's a host of other authors and books that I've read and I really liked and enjoyed and always found something useful with. But I think in like the terms of like writing style, those two are probably the biggest influences for me. Um, yeah, I don't want to jumble around all this time, but yeah, the book follows a group of survivors in the city of Boston trying to leave to get somewhere safe. And the book's prologue, the very beginning of it, starts with a broadcast on the radio from Acadia National Park. And I wanted the prologue to be read in a way that sounds like you are a survivor on your own, who knows where you are, but you're hearing the radio broadcast coming from Acadia National Park. And the story picks up 36 days after the chaos of the initial outbreak. And so, it's not like we're following characters when the outbreak first starts. No, no, we're following characters who are surviving, who are trying to figure out how to get out of the city. And to have been alive that long in a crowded city like Boston, I mean, there's a reason why I chose to do that. And it follows their journey. And there's two other characters, like I mentioned, two other lead protagonists who their journeys begin in complete isolation. Because I wanted also to focus on characters who are experiencing the same thing, but on their own, and how they've endured and how they've survived. So, without getting into too much spoilers or details, one of the characters that is probably my personal favorite, or maybe second favorite of the whole story, she's a helicopter pilot, and uh, she worked. Well, she served in the Air Force, and so we see her perspective of how she goes from isolation to also finding hope. And then another character who I completely based off of a buddy of one of my best friends when we were in college, and he's still very much like this. So Isaac, if you're watching this, it's literally based off of you. He's a college kid, and he has been isolating himself inside of a museum, and he's found like actual medieval knight plate armor and a sword. And so that's what he's been using to survive and endure. And because he's a history student, he understands a lot of that knightlyhood background. He understands codes of chivalry, how knights were, and so he really takes it upon himself, this persona of a knight. And I had a lot of fun writing his chapters. And so, I'm sure when Isaac gets to those moments in the story, he's going to be like, "Huh, okay, okay, I see it, I see it." So, yeah, and oh gosh, like what else? It just follows, their moments from hectic, trying to survive, escape, to all out guns blazing, just trying to push through a horde to get to somewhere safe, to making sure that a neighborhood is safe, and then just wind down for the night and have a quiet, peaceful moment. So it really does bring in a lot of things that I've always wanted to see in a zombie story. And this is my personal work and my imagination that I'm getting to just take from my brain and put it into words on paper. And so yeah, the book is called Fading Death, and I'm going to be going through the journey of editing the first round of the first draft with my own notes, and then as I get feedback from beta readers, I'm going to go ahead and just compare it and see what the ideas are there, and if whatever the next changes are. And then after that's done, then the next step is to find an actual editor who's going to be able to look over my work, and I'm going to need their help, especially to look at like sentence structure, the tense that I'm writing in, the more technical side, because that's where my strengths are not. And so being able to have some help with the more, you know, technical writing comprehension side of things is where I'm going to need help. And so that's where that's going to happen. And then once that's done and I hear from them and get their feedback and make the changes that are needed, then the next step is to get it published. So that's the journey that I'm on right now, and I'm going to take you along with me. So, you know, if you're an aspiring writer out there and you have a first draft, or maybe even have a published book already, or maybe you're just trying to figure out what you want to write, then please ask me, let me know, because I could share you how I reached this point, what I've done, what works for me. And like I mentioned at the start of this video, every writer's journey is different, and it should be, because we're all humans. We're all different. We're all unique to our own unique selves. And I'm saying unique too many times. So as an author, that's uniquely terrible. So I'm not gonna say it anymore. Anyways, that's really what I have to be able to share today. That this video is gonna be, and so next week, I'm actually going to be in a different location because I'm going to be going on vacation to visit my brother and his family in Virginia. And so I can't wait to see them, my nephews, and I'm going to get to meet my little niece. And I just can't wait to hold them and throw them around and just have fun and just enjoy that time together. And from what my brother told me, they really love story time, and I love reading. So those kids better be ready to listen to Uncle Jojo yap away as I'm reading. So, anyways, that's really it that I had to share today. Um, Stay tuned, follow my journey, and I hope you're able to feel motivated and inspired as well to write your stories. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. I want to help as many people as I can. So that's really it, because we're here once, and if writing is something that is truly on your heart and you just don't know how to get it out, hey, I've been there and I'm doing that. So thank you so much. I hope you have a great day.